So Bruce, I hear that you have a fun deal you want to share with us. Tell us where the donation came from, what does it look like, and who's getting the money?
Well, today I am involved in a closing to multiple people here, but let me tell you about the background of the deal. We've been working on this donation for 7 months. Came to us in January. It was a 3 parcels of land that were being used commercially up in a small town, northern Minnesota, called Pine City, north of Minneapolis, on a lake, surrounded by residential properties, but there were 2 historic buildings on these 3 parcels that our 2 donors wanted to donate to us. They tore down one of the buildings. The oldest historic building is still there, a big brick, beautiful building, contaminated with asbestos mostly, maybe some oil and gas. But
now, what was the donor's intention? Why did they want to donate?
Well, they are charitably inclined. They both have donor advised funds already established at Fidelity Charitable. And they are partners who used to both live in the Minneapolis area. And they did many deals over their lifetime and had a portfolio, and this is kind of a remnant. They're both elderly and they're trying to unwind. And they thought that they would unwind by using this property as a 100% charitable donation. This is an outright gift. There's no cash going to the donor. And when they first came to us back in January, and we started looking at it, and we started calling the professionals up in the area, because we do know people up there in the Minneapolis area, our take was that this property was probably worth around $280,000. And the reason it was because it was an outlier in the midst of an otherwise residential subdivision on a lake. These parcels had lakefront visibility. And so it was odd that these were commercial properties. And when we were trying to find a user for this old building and maybe building some other commercial uses, we just couldn't find anyone who would give us any more than about $280,000 for the combined 5.5 acres. So we sat down with them and said, look, this is really a location that is intended to be residential. And we have a lot of development background in our group. We've created lots of subdivisions. We've gone to counties and cities and rezoned properties from one thing to another. And we propose that we rezone this property from its commercial use to residential, and that we divide this 5.5 acres up into 7 residential lots, thinking that might add some more value to what we were doing. So I undertook the process of getting the subdivision going, which meant hiring an engineer, hiring a surveyor, and hiring a construction company that could build the few roads and utilities that we would need to service 7 residential lots if we were approved by the township. And my partner, Jay Grab, went out and looked for buyers who might be interested in a residential lot with lakefront property. And so he worked on that part and I worked on our part, and Jay came up with buyers that aggregated together to about $710,000 of value for our donors. So if we were able to create the subdivision, we were going to take the property from being worth $280,000 to $710,000, all of which was going to flow into the nonprofit world, although we were going to have some cost in doing all this. So I undertook the process of getting the land subdivided. I negotiated contracts with the various vendors we needed, particularly the gentleman who was going to build the roads and utilities. And the total cost of the whole thing, including fees and miscellaneous things, was about $90,000. So
now let me ask you, Bruce. why is it, this is important for our viewers, why is it that instead of just selling it as is and getting 280, you were willing to take on all these months, come out of pocket $90,000? Why didn't you go the easy route? What was your inspiration for taking this on?
You know, Cammie, sometimes the easy route is the best route, and I'm going to tell you a story in a little bit about the easy route. Okay, we do take the easy route sometimes, but we had an instinct that this would not be too much work. Pine City is a small community, and the process for a subdivision is rather simple in Pine City. And so we thought we would not hit a lot of barriers in our request to change the land from commercial, which nobody up there wanted it to be, to residential, which everyone wanted it to be. So we just had an instinct that while it might take some time, that we might not get a lot of opposition, and all it was going to cost was money. And so if you take $710,000 of sale value and you subtract $90,000 of cost and some closing costs, in the end, this was going to create $630,000 to the nonprofit world. And we just said, hey, that's something good to get out of bed for. And we did. And we went through 5 different public hearings. We went through a construction process, which then had to be inspected. And when it was inspected, it wasn't perfect. We had to go fix it. And all of our vendors were really eager to help us because they knew, I mean, these are contractors and surveyors and engineers. They knew that what we were up to was to create funds for the nonprofit world. So we got a lot of cooperation from everybody in the community, including the HOA and the title company. There was no broker involved. We went direct to, Jay was able to go direct to some buyers, and that saved us a lot of money. And today, I am signing documents to close on the final lot sales tomorrow, which is going to create this $630,000, which will be divided by the 2 donors equally, going into their donor advised fund with Fidelity Charitable. And, you know, they are thrilled. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to spend any money. We got a lot of cooperation from the vendors up there. Our out-of-pockets were rather minimal because we said to them, the day we close the sales is the day you will get your check. That's $90,000 worth of checks, you know, just sort of sitting there waiting for us to perform. And they believed that we were going to be able to perform, and we did.
So for those watching, a donor advised fund means that the donor can advise out of that fund grants to nonprofits that they want to benefit. So potentially dozens of nonprofits could get grants out of that money. I'm going to put you on the spot about charitable leverage. So 710,000 was created. How much from charitable leverage would you say that property is actually worth?
These 2 are going to get an appraisal. Let's just say the appraisal is 710. That's going to be worth about $300,000 to them in terms of their tax savings. It's like the government wrote them a check. So the net amount of money, of cash that we're sending to the nonprofit world is about $630,000, but the donors are going to get a $300,000 cash benefit from their tax deduction. I'm glad you asked the question. You add that together, that's $930,000 of cash benefits being shared between the donors and the nonprofits who will eventually get this money. And you are right about the donor advised fund. This money is going to go into each one of their funds on an equal basis, say $300,000 a piece. And over the years, these 2 gentlemen are going to be able to make their own independent decisions about what nonprofits they want to support with grants out of their donor advised fund to specific nonprofits. It might take a lifetime for them to spend this money because I don't think they intend to send all of it to anybody. I think they're going to be very strategic. 10,000 here, 10,000 there, maybe 50,000 here and there, but it's going to take them some time. They're elderly gentlemen and they're going to have fun for the rest of their life supporting the causes they believe in.
Great story, Bruce. Well, there you have it. Just another example of how charitable gifting of real estate helps the donor, helps the nonprofit world, and has charitable leverage, bringing a property from $700,000 to basically almost $1 million in value.
Right.
We'll see you on the next episode, and we'll tell you about the next story. Bye, everybody.